The crack of rifles echoed across the range, sharp and rhythmic, like thunder rolling across a stormy sky. The men of SEAL Team 3 moved with mechanical precision, their boots grinding against the gravel, their breaths syncing with the recoil of their weapons. And then, "Rookie," a voice boomed. It wasn't just a voice. It was a hammer striking steel, deep and dripping with contempt. Every operator froze. Heads turned. Fingers eased off triggers. Commander Robert Morrison stood at the edge of the range, his broad chest rising with smug confidence. His presence alone could silence an entire battlefield. He locked eyes on one person, Sophia Hayes. She stood still, Remington 700 snug against her shoulder, cheek pressed to the stock, as if she were one with the weapon. Her hazel eyes didn't flinch. They stayed steady, even as the commander stalked toward her, boots crunching slow and deliberate. "This is SEAL Team 3's house," Robert's voice cut through the wind. "Not a shooting club for girls who want to play soldier." The insult landed like a slap across the range. 24 men watched, waiting for the show, waiting for their commander to put this rookie back in her place. Robert snatched the rifle from her hands with unnecessary force. He spun it in his grip, laughing, a sharp, glass-cutting laugh that carried mockery in every note. 12 moving targets. 5 minutes. Wins at 4-7. The team record? 8 minutes, 43 seconds. "You think you can handle that, princess?" He tossed the rifle back at her like garbage. But Sophia caught it cleanly. Smooth. No fumble, no hesitation. The kind of motion that only came from years of muscle memory. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't meet his arrogance with defiance. "I'll try, sir." The words were quiet, barely louder than the coastal wind whipping across Virginia Beach. But Master Chief Michael Rodriguez, standing near the ammo station, felt his chest tighten. His eyes narrowed as he watched Sophia run a quick check on the rifle's action, her hands moving with surgical precision. That technique, that ritual, he had seen it before, decades ago in Afghanistan. And in that moment, something deep in his gut told him, Morrison was about to learn a lesson he'd never forget. The morning had started like any other at Naval Special Warfare Command. 0600. The sky still streaked with pink from the rising sun. Sophia arrived quietly, deployment orders in one hand, a weathered bag slung across her shoulder. She moved past the gate with the calmness of someone used to stares. The guard's eyes had widened at her papers. Because sure, women weren't strangers at SEAL facilities, but a woman sniper assigned to an operational team? That was nearly unheard of. She walked into the team room, where Commander Robert ruled like a king on his throne. His booming voice filled the space as he briefed his men, every word dripping with authority. And then the door creaked. Sophia stepped in. The air shifted, from discipline to disdain, from focus to mockery. "Gentlemen," Robert announced, his sarcasm sharp as a blade, "meet our new sniper support specialist." Apparently, higher-ups think diversity is more important than effectiveness. The room erupted in laughter. Loud, cruel. Sophia said nothing. She found a chair in the back corner, lowered herself into it, her face unreadable. But her cheeks burned. She'd learned long ago, reacting only gave bullies what they wanted. Michael Rodriguez, arms crossed to the side of the room, studied her in silence. Something about her movements, the way she kept her shoulders square despite the jeers, pulled at his memory. She reminded him of a ghost, someone he once knew and lost. The briefing ended. Operators shuffled toward the range. But before she could blend into the group, Robert's voice boomed again, singling her out. "You'll take the farthest post. Don't want you getting in the way of real operators. Maybe you can practice your breathing exercises. You know, the ones from your safe, air-conditioned schoolhouse." The laughter followed her outside. Sophia didn't bite. She just collected her ammo. Her fingers brushed against the rifle's serial number as she walked. Almost like it was a ritual. Almost like she knew it better than anyone else. And Michael saw it again. That gesture. That memory. He'd seen it before in Kandahar. The range stretched wide and merciless, over 2,000 meters of wind, sand, and steel. Robert kept circling her, waiting for mistakes, watching like a wolf testing prey. But when Sophia ran her first qualification course, her shots grouped tight and perfect. Flawless. Robert's jaw tightened. Lucky shots, he spat. But she didn't flinch. Didn't even acknowledge him. Instead, she adjusted her gloves, tactical ones, designed with aerospace grip tech, the kind that kept your touch sharp even in brutal weather. She flexed her fingers, letting the material press perfectly against the trigger. Michael's breath caught again. That wasn't random. That was ritual. That was memory. He'd seen this same precision, this same calm, from a sniper who once saved his life in Afghanistan. Team meeting. 5 minutes. Robert's voice pulled everyone in. The SEALs gathered in a circle at the 500-meter line, some smirking, some curious. Their commander stood in the center, ready to put on a show. "Since our diversity hire thinks she can shoot," Robert began, his grin smug, "we'll give her a chance to prove it. Let's see what equal opportunity training has bought us." The circle tightened. Boots shuffled. Some men sneered. Sophia stood in silence. Calm. Still. Her breathing slow. Her eyes steady. Lieutenant Emma Chun, from Intel, arrived just in time. She'd heard the rumors about a female sniper, but she hadn't expected to see this level of hostility in the open. But something caught her attention. Sophia wasn't nervous. She wasn't showing a single tell. No twitch, no anxious breath. She stood like someone who had already faced fire. Real fire. And that's when Robert handed her a rifle that wasn't zeroed. Sabotage. A guaranteed failure. But Sophia only studied the scope, adjusted it by instinct, and fired 10 rounds. Every shot punched the center ring at 600 meters. The wind was gusting 15 knots, enough to ruin most shooters' chances. But she didn't even look at the flags. She read the air itself, like it spoke to her. "Beginner's luck," Robert muttered. But his smirk was fading. And Michael Rodriguez felt his suspicions turning into something more. By midday, Robert had thrown challenge after challenge at her. Moving targets. Long range. Stress drills. She hit every one. Perfect. Calm. Unshaken. The men started whispering. "She's not missing. Not even close. It's like she's playing with him." And for the first time, Robert's team wasn't laughing. They were watching. Respect forming in their eyes. But Robert wasn't done. No. He was saving something special. Something cruel. The impossible course. 12 targets. 3 seconds exposure. Distances out to 1,000 meters. Unpredictable wind. Not even his best man had done it under 8 minutes. Robert leaned in close, sneering. "Ladies first. Show us what your pretty little school taught you. Maybe you can draw us a smiley face." The men chuckled nervously, but the sound was hollow now. Even they wanted to see what she could do. Sophia walked to the line. Her steps were slow, purposeful, and as she prepared her rifle, silence swept across the range. The kind of silence before a storm. Michael's heart pounded. He'd seen this before. He knew this wasn't just another shooter. And, if he was right, Robert Morrison was about to learn a lesson 13 years in the making. The coastal wind howled across the range, whistling like a restless spirit. Fine grains of sand lifted and danced, stinging faces, finding their way into every crease of gear. And in the middle of that storm, Sophia Hayes lowered herself to the firing line. Not a wasted movement. Not a single gesture too quick or too slow. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat synced with the rhythm of the world. The way she set her rifle down wasn't just training, it was ritual. Behind her, Commander Robert Morrison folded his massive arms, smirking for the crowd. 12 targets. Random exposures. 3 seconds each. 5 minutes. Break the record or pack your bags. He said it loud enough for every SEAL to hear. And they leaned in closer, boots crunching against the gravel. Lieutenant Emma Chin lifted her phone, recording. She didn't know why, but something in her gut told her this moment mattered. The range officer raised his hand. "Shooter ready?" Sophia's hazel eyes narrowed, focused through the scope. She didn't look back, didn't nod, just breathed. Time begins with the first shot. The first target flashed open at 750 meters, sliding left to right in a cruel dance. Crack. The rifle barked. Target dropped. Not even a second of hesitation. A ripple passed through the men behind her. Robert's smirk faltered. "Lucky shot," he muttered. But his voice didn't sound so sure. The second target appeared at 400 meters, moving faster. Sophia tracked it effortlessly. Crack. Center mass. The rifle bolt cycled, smooth as water over stone. Her movements weren't rushed, they were inevitable. Like the bullet already knew where to go. By the fourth target, the crowd wasn't sneering anymore. They were silent. Silent like men at a funeral. Silent like worshippers in a cathedral. Because this wasn't just shooting. This was mastery. Each shot followed the same rhythm, crack, cycle, acquire, crack. A deadly heartbeat that cut through the roaring Atlantic wind. Target 6 appeared at the farthest post. 1,000 meters. Erratic movement. The kind of target designed to humiliate even seasoned snipers. The wind gusted hard, whipping flags into horizontal lines. Any normal shooter would have waited. Sophia didn't. She adjusted, exhaled, and fired. The bullet bent through the wind like it had been guided by unseen hands. Target down. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered behind Michael Rodriguez. He turned to see Petty Officer Thompson, one of Robert's loyal men, staring wide-eyed. That shot, that was impossible. Michael didn't answer. His throat was tight. Because he had seen this before. Not here. Not in Virginia. But in the Hindu Kush Mountains, Afghanistan. A Marine sniper had once saved his life, saved all their lives, by making shots just like these. Shots that bent reality. Shots that should have been impossible. And that sniper's name had been Michael Hayes. Sophia's father. The targets fell one after another. 7, 8, 9. Every shot perfect. Every transition smooth. By now, no one in the crowd doubted. They weren't watching to see her fail. They were watching to see how far she could go. And Commander Robert Morrison, the man who had mocked her, sabotaged her, belittled her, stood frozen, his jaw tight, sweat forming at his temple. For the first time in his career, he was losing control of the range. The 11th target fell with another clean shot. Only one remained, and Robert couldn't hide his fear. Because deep down, he knew what was about to happen. The final target appeared at maximum range, moving unpredictably, stuttering forward like a terrified man in the dark. The wind howled, picking up dust devils, whipping sand into eyes. Sophia didn't blink. She tracked the target not where it was, but where it would be. Her lips moved slightly, counting, calculating, breathing. Crack. The rifle spoke. 2 endless seconds later, the target jerked backward, struck dead center. Silence. Then the buzzer. The range officer's voice broke, stunned. For minutes, 17 seconds. New course record. The crowd erupted. Some shouted. Some cursed. Some just stared in disbelief. But Sophia, she safed her rifle, rose slowly, and turned to face her commander. Her expression calm, steady, not gloating, not mocking. Just the quiet, unshakable gaze of someone who had nothing left to prove. Robert's face went pale. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. His team looked at him now, not at Sophia, but at him. And for the first time, they weren't laughing with their commander. They were questioning him. The power in the air had shifted, and Robert knew it. The gravel crunched as a black SUV rolled up beside the range. The doors opened. Out stepped a man in full uniform, stars gleaming on his shoulders. General Harris, Deputy Commander of SOCOM, a living legend. The SEALs snapped to attention, every spine rigid. But Harris didn't look at them, didn't even glance at Robert. His eyes went straight to Sophia. And in that instant, Michael Rodriguez saw recognition flash across the general's face. The kind of recognition that shakes a man to his core. General Harris stepped forward, his voice low but firm, carrying across the range. "Sergeant Hayes," he said. The crowd stiffened. Not support specialist. Not rookie. Sergeant. And then the general's eyes softened, almost as if he were looking at a ghost. "You're the spitting image of your father." The words landed like thunder. Michael Rodriguez felt his chest seize. His suspicions confirmed. Robert Morrison's jaw dropped. And the crowd knew instantly. The impossible had just become legend. What would you do if you suddenly discovered the person you doubted the most carried the blood of a legend? For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Only the Atlantic spoke, wind combing the grass, waves cracking like distant drumfire. A gull cried once, sharp and lonely, and the sound seemed to cut the frozen moment in two. General Harris stepped closer. Up close, the lines on his face told their own war stories. Late nights, field briefings, the weight of decisions that never stopped echoing. His boots pressed the gravel, slow and certain. He wasn't visiting. He was arriving. "Sergeant Hayes," he said again, softer now. "I should have recognized your shooting the second you took the first target." Sophia's jaw tightened, but her eyes stayed clear. "Sir." Behind her, the rifles of SEAL Team 3 hung quiet across chests. Men who had trained 1,000 days to master their bodies stood completely still, unable to master this knowledge uncoiling through their ranks like heat. Commander Robert Morrison opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, he had no script. The wind tugged at his cover, and a bead of sweat traced a crooked path down his temple. General Harris let the silence breathe, let the lesson land. Then he looked past Sophia, past the stunned faces, and found Master Chief Michael Rodriguez in the crowd. "You knew," Harris said. Rodriguez swallowed. "Sir, I suspected." "How long?" "Since the first string." His voice roughened. "The way she checks her action. The way she reads wind with her fingers. I've only seen that once." A flicker crossed Harris's eyes, memory passing like a shadow. "In Afghanistan." Rodriguez nodded. "Hindu Kush. The ridge above Shaikat. 13 years ago." The wind pressed the smell of salt and gun oil across the line. Somewhere, a metal target clinked, settling back into place. General Harris turned to the team, voice rising just enough to carry. "Operators, listen up. You just watched a new course record drop by more than 4 minutes in wind that should have eaten half those shots. You think that's luck?" His gaze cut a clean line through the semicircle. "You witnessed what happens when craft becomes instinct, when a lifetime's worth of practice turns into second sight." He faced Sophia. "You are your father's marksmanship, Sergeant, and you are also your own." A tremble rippled through the ranks. The name they hadn't heard yet hovered like a storm no one wanted, but everyone needed. Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Sir, may I?" Harris nodded. Michael stepped forward until he stood beside Sophia, the sun catching the white scars on his knuckles. He looked at her, not through her, not around her, at her, the way you look at someone you finally found after a long, punishing search. "I served with a Marine sniper named Michael Hayes," he said. "They called him Lantern. Said he could light the darkness for miles. On a day that should have ended 8 lives, he didn't let it. He cut the wind in half and threaded holes through a sandstorm like it was drawn on glass." Several operators shifted, recognizing the story's bones, the one whispered in bars and classrooms but never told in full. Rodriguez's voice softened. "He gave us everything he had, and everything he was. I never forgot his hands, or his watch." Sophia glanced down. The battered watch on her wrist flashed dull silver, its face spiderwebbed with scratches, the back plate engraved with 2 words, "Forever Watching." Harris saw it too. Something in him relaxed, a long-held tension releasing. He used to tap it right before an impossible shot, he said, almost to himself. 3 taps. Like he was knocking on a door he believed would open. Sophia smiled, just a thread. Then it vanished. Commander Morrison finally found his voice. It cracked. "General, with respect, this is our assigned support specialist. We were, evaluating her." Harris didn't look at him. "Is that what you call hazing now, Commander?" Robert flinched. Around him, the men of Team 3 stood straighter. The air changed, like everyone quietly stepped out of his shadow. "Sir," Robert tried again, smaller now. "Aye." Harris lifted a hand. "Done. We'll get to you." He shifted to address the entire range. Michael Hayes didn't just take hard shots. He took responsibility. He stood where no one else could stand. 8 SEALs made it home that day because he refused to let the math win. A beat. The range breathed. Rodriguez spoke, voice thick. I was one of those 8. Heads turned. Emma Chen's phone, steady as a surgeon's hand, captured every tremor of this unfolding truth. But even through a lens, she felt the weight of it. Truth changes people. So does shame. Master Chief, Harris said quietly, your life has been interest on a debt. Michael nodded, and his eyes glossed bright. Yes, sir. Sophia's chin dipped. She didn't wipe the tear that slid down. Let them see. Let them know. Robert stared at her watch like it was a bullet with his name on it. Hayes, he whispered, almost to the wind. Your father, he. Sophia turned to him, steady, unflinching. Say his name, Commander. Robert's gaze dropped. His jaw worked. Michael Hayes, he said louder. Marine Scout Sniper. Lantern. A murmur resounded through the line. And, Robert choked, the man who saved my brother. The words fell like a hammer. Even Harris blinked. Daniel Morrison, Robert said, every syllable heavier than the last. Team 4. Wife's name is Jenna. 2 kids. He swallowed hard. I kept a photograph on my desk, Danny at the dock with both of them, because someone made sure that moment existed. He folded. Powerful men don't fall gracefully. His knees hit gravel with a grind. Dust plumed. His shoulders shook. I should have been there, he whispered. I should have watched his back. I wasn't. And the only reason I didn't bury him is because a Marine with a rifle fought the world for him. He looked up at Sophia, eyes drowned. And God help me, I treated you like a threat. Silence pressed down, heavy as a hand. What would you do in this moment? Dig deeper into pride, or open your heart and let it break? Sophia moved. Not away from. She knelt beside him. The range smelled like salt and steel and summer heat. My father taught me 2 things, she said, voice low and clear. Hit what you aim at, and never aim at the wrong thing. Her hand rested on Robert's shoulder. The big man flinched, then stilled. You aimed at the wrong thing today, Commander. But you did it because you were protecting your team the way you knew how. Protecting matters. She squeezed gently. So does correcting. Robert shut his eyes. A tear cut a clean line through the dust on his cheek. When he opened them, something had shifted. The steel was still there, just tempered. I don't deserve forgiveness, he said. Sophia's lips trembled, then steadied. Neither did any of us over there. But a stranger gave it anyway. She tipped her chin toward Michael's scars, toward the ring of men alive because of a watch and a calm breath. That's the tribe I was raised in. Harris let the silence linger. He understood the engineering of a moment like this. Too much force and it shatters. Just enough, and it sets. Emma lowered her phone. She wasn't thinking about views. She was thinking about archives, about history filed and saved so some young operator could watch this one day and change. Rodriguez drew in a careful breath. Sophia, we looked for you after the funeral. Then you were gone. I wanted to disappear, she said, eyes on the horizon. I was angry. At him for leaving. At the Corps for taking. At the world for moving on. She exhaled. Foster care made me quiet. The range made me whole. She tapped the watch. 1, 2, 3. Forever watching, she murmured. The men around her shifted again, not in discomfort this time, but in recognition. The phrase touched something old in them. The feeling that someone had their 6 when it mattered. After I aged out, I enlisted, Sophia continued. Sniper school, top of class. They wanted banners and press. I wanted a ruck and a range. A faint smile. So I learned to be a ghost with a heartbeat. Harris's sternness softened into something like pride. Your instructors at Quantico sent me your numbers, he said. You didn't just top the class, Sergeant. You turned records into rumors. Morrison stood at last, slower, steadier. Dust clung to his knees. He faced his own men, the ones who had laughed with him this morning and gone silent this afternoon. Gentlemen, he said, voice firm but raw, you watched me fail the standard I preach. You ever see me bend performance to prejudice again, Call me out. Loud. His hands curled into fists, then released. From now on, no one gets judged by anything but skill and conduct. Not gender. Not background. Not rumor. He turned back to Sophia. And Hayes, I owe your father a debt I cannot pay. I can start by doing right by his daughter. A gull cut the sky again. The sound felt different this time, less lonely, more like punctuation. General Harris nodded once, as if a box on an invisible checklist had been marked in black ink. Then he glanced to his aide, who approached with a rugged military tablet, scarred corners, paint nicked from a dozen field briefings. He took the device, swept a finger across the screen, and looked back at Sophia. Sergeant, he said, voice slipping back into command. Your orders place you as sniper support with Team 3. I have the authority to modify them. A thin smile. What happens next is not routine. The wind stilled, as if the whole range decided to listen. Harris held the tablet, but didn't hand it over. There are 2 paths in front of you. Maybe 3. Sophia's heartbeat settled into that familiar, measured cadence. Breathe in. Let go. Focus. Before I say anything else, Harris added, eyes traveling the semicircle of faces, understand this. What you did today is more than a record. It's a mirror. Some of us didn't like what we saw. Good. That's how change begins. He turned the tablet, so the light caught its screen. Sergeant Hayes, he said, I'm about to offer you a choice. The range leaned in. Even the waves seemed to wait. What would you choose? Stay in the shadows where you're safest. Step into the fight where lives depend on your trigger, or split yourself in 2 and carry both burdens. Engines clicked as they cooled. The black SUV sat humming like a patient animal. Wind combed the range and tossed the flags until they whipped flat and loud. Everyone waited. General Harris held the tablet in one hand, the other tucked behind his back. He looked at Sophia the way a craftsman studies a blade fresh from the fire, gauging not just edge, but purpose. You have orders, he said, voice steady. Sniper support, Team 3. He paused, letting the ordinary weight of that settle. Or, he continued, I can reassign you. Boots shifted on gravel. Metal creaked. A gull skimmed the air and screamed once. To what, sir? Sophia asked. The development group is building an advanced marksmanship cadre, Harris said. We need instructors who don't just hit. We need instructors who see. People who can take the old truths and graft them onto new tools. He tipped the tablet, so the light flashed across its scarred glass. You could teach. A single word from behind them, dry as grit. Sir. Commander Robert Morrison stood straighter. Dust caked his knees. He didn't brush it off. With respect, he said, voice rough but clear. Hayes belongs with an operational team. The line saves lives. She should be there. The men glanced at one another. An hour ago, they would have cheered the challenge. Now they listened. Harris studied Robert. You were very sure of yourself this morning, Commander. I was sure of the wrong thing, Robert replied. No defensiveness. No spin. I'm not sure of that anymore. Silence. Even the flags seemed to run out of breath. Harris turned back to Sophia. There's a third path, he said. Operational assignment with Team 3. Additional duty with a cadre during workups and stand-downs. You'll deploy. And you'll shape the next generation. Sophia's fingers found the old watch. 1, 2, 3 taps. Forever watching. Her heartbeat slowed. The range went soft around the edges, like the world knew to give her space. She looked to Rodriguez. He didn't nod. He didn't shake his head. He just met her eyes and let her see the truth there. Choose the work that outlives you. Emma Chun lowered her phone a fraction, as if not to intrude. Whatever you choose, she murmured, we'll make sure it's recorded right. Sergeant. Harris said. Sophia drew a breath. The air smelled like salt and oil and baked metal. I accept the third path, sir. A current ran through the circle. Surprise, admiration, a few reluctant smiles. Robert's shoulders eased a notch, like a pain had loosened its bite. But, Sophia added. The wind pressed in again. Heads lifted. Eyes sharpened. My condition is simple, she said. What happened this morning ends. Not just for me. For anyone who comes after. We test for performance. We respect the work. We close the door on anything else. Harris said nothing. He didn't need to. This wasn't for him. Robert turned to face his men. His voice carried like a range command. Gentlemen, eyes on. Every head snapped forward. We got sloppy, he said. We confused tradition with talent. That ends now. From this moment, we evaluate only what a shooter can do and how they carry themselves. Period. If you hear me breaking that rule, you call me on it, loud. If you break it, I will. He let the words hang. No theatrics. No threat. Just tone. The kind that sticks. Understood, he asked. A beat of quiet. Then a chorus rolled back. Understood. Sophia's jaw softened. Not relief. Respect. Harris slid the tablet to his aide without looking away from her. You'll report to Team 3 for immediate integration, he said. Between evolutions, you'll assist the cadres stand up at Dam Neck and over the river at the other house. You'll write doctrine where it needs writing. A faint smile touched one eye. And you'll erase some where it needs erasing. Sophia almost smiled back. Copy, sir. Rodriguez stepped forward, the gravel crunching under his boots. His voice was low enough to be private and loud enough for the team to hear. Your father could shoot the wind into behaving, he said. But the thing that made him a legend wasn't the hits. It was the judgment. He nodded toward the watch. Don't let anybody rush your trigger. Not even us. Sophia's throat tightened. I won't. Good, he said. Because the line is loud and heroes get noisy. Real shooters stay quiet. Emma lifted her phone again. One more, she said. For the record. Sophia turned so the watch faced the lens. He taught me that the best shot isn't always the one you take, she said. It's the one you don't. A whisper of agreement drifted around the semicircle. A few men looked down at their rifles like they'd just met them for the first time. All right, Robert said, business returning to his tone. Enough ceremony. We have a standard to raise. Hayes, with me. Master Chief, you've got integration. Chun, send me your footage. Harris. He caught himself, cleared his throat. General. Harris's mouth twitched. Carry on, Commander. They moved. Targets rattled and reset. Armor creaked. The range breathed again. Rodriguez walked Sophia through Team 3's world. Names. Call signs. Habits. He didn't rush. He let the information find its own place in her head. Those three, he said, nodding to a cluster by the 800-meter line, are the ones who learn with their ears. That one learns with his hands. And that one, he smiled. That one learns by trying to beat you. Good, Sophia said. He'll make me honest. Everybody needs that guy, Rodriguez replied. Robert reappeared with a fresh rifle, faultless zero, fresh optic, magazine sealed. He presented it without ceremony. Welcome to Team 3, Hayes, he said. Let's see how you teach under sweat. She took the rifle, felt the balance, checked the bolt, set the bipod. The sounds came back like percussion, clicks, clacks, a soft cloth over steel. Course, she asked. Stress shoot, Robert said. Sprints between strings. Movers at varied ranges. I want your process in their ears, not just your shots. Sophia glanced at the men who'd sneered at dawn and stood attentive at noon. Copy, she said. Eyes up, boys. You'll hear me talk more than you like. A ripple of nervous laughter. It helped. She ran, knees up, breath in her teeth, gravel spitting from her heels. Dropped prone. Index points. Natural point of aim. Don't fight the rifle, make it an axis. Crack. Moved. Read mirage, not just flags. The air tells you what it wants if you watch it long enough. Crack. Up. Sprint. Down. Trigger is a negotiation, not a demand. Crack. The men leaned forward. Emma filmed. Rodriguez watched the spaces, the way she used silence like punctuation, where she paused and let them wonder just long enough to care. Robert checked the line. No slouching. No smirks. Only attention. He let himself breathe. Sophia finished with a long hold on the 1,000. Her cheek relaxed against the stock. Her breath vanished. The wind shifted and she shifted with it. a dancer adjusting a fraction before the note. Crack. A half-second later, the steel clanged. Time, Rodriguez called. Sophia rolled to a knee. Questions. A young operator with sunburned cheeks lifted a hand. How'd you trust the last hold? Flags were lying. I didn't, she said. I trusted the grass. The grit at my muzzle. Your eyes lie when they're tired. Ground never does. She nodded at his boots. Watch the dust. It always tells the truth. He grinned despite himself. Yes, ma'am. Don't ma'am me on the line, she said, deadpan. Save that for your mother. Laughter cleaner now. A pressure valve turned the right way. Robert's radio hissed. He listened, expression shifting. We're done for the morning, he said to the line. Hydrate. Reset stations. He turned to Harris. General? Harris's gaze lifted toward the far berm, as if he could see a future stamped there. One more thing, Commander. Put a plaque up. Small. Quiet. What should it say? Harris glanced at Sophia's watch. The old scratches caught sunlight like constellations. Excellence has no category, he said. And a second line. He looked at Sophia. Forever watching. Robert nodded once. Aye. The range began to empty. Gear clanked. Voices softened. The ocean picked up its old rhythm. Sophia lingered beside the 500-meter line. She closed her eyes. The wind lifted the hair at her temples and cooled the salt on her skin. She tapped the watch. 1, 2, 3. You ever feel a presence when you're alone? Not a ghost. A memory that stands up and breathes. Rodriguez approached quietly. Your father would be proud, he said. No sermon. No ceremony. Just that. Sophia kept watching the berm. I'm proud of him, she whispered. And I'm not done paying it forward. Good, he said. Because change is loud at first. Then it gets quiet and stubborn. That's where most people quit. I don't quit. I know. They stood together, letting the wind write the last sentences of the morning. Behind them, Robert spoke to his team in a low, even tone about standards and respect. Emma sent a secured file to an archive. Harris stepped back into the SUV and closed the door with a soft, final thud. The vehicle rolled away, tires crunching like bone on gravel. Sophia slung the rifle and turned toward the future, waiting at the armory door. 6 months from this morning, a mission will force Sophia to choose between the shot she can make and the life she might lose, hers or someone else's. When the wind turns and the clock runs out, which truth will she trust? 6 months later, the night tasted like metal. A crescent moon hung over a spine of mountains. Cold wind crawled up the ravine, carrying grit that clicked against the glass of Sophia's scope. Below, a mud-walled compound pulsed with generator hum and restless voices. A convoy idled at the edge like a held breath. Overwatch set, Sophia whispered into her mic. Her cheek rested on the stock. Her heartbeat slowed. Eyes on courtyard. 2 hostiles on the roof. 1 with radio. 1 with dead man's switch. Silence pressed through the net. Then Robert's voice, low and steady. Copy Hayes. We're at the breach. 30 seconds. Emma, back at the TOC, spoke after a beat. Comm clipped. Thermals show 4 heat signatures northwest of your roof. Likely reinforcements by the water tanks. Rodriguez was the last. Remember the thing we talked about, he said. Quiet enough to feel private on an open line. Best shot you take, and the best one you don't. Sophia's finger brushed the trigger. Not pressure, presence. Wind ticked over the ridge behind her, cool and fickle. She read the grass, the dust, the way a thin ribbon of smoke bent and straightened. Breathe. Count. Wait. Below, a hostage stumbled into view. Hands zip-tied, a hood torn halfway, stumbling on bare feet. A guard yanked him forward, chin-high black wire trailing from a clasp on his hand. Dead man's switch. Emma's voice sharpened. Sophia, that device is a hold to safe. If he lets go. I know, Sophia said. Another guard lifted a satellite phone. He barked into it. The word package cut across the night. Robert again. We go on your shot. Sophia tracked the man with the phone. He paced, stopped, turned. A dog barked. A generator coughed. The mountain wind chased its tail around her barrel and vanished into black. She could hit the phone. She could hit the thumb on the switch. She could thread the breath between two heartbeats and write her name on the wind. But the stillness inside her said no. Negative, she murmured. Not yet. Hayes, Robert warned. Trust me, she said. Wait. Crack. Her bullet clipped the lip of a metal lantern over the courtyard door. Glass shattered in a glittering sheet. The shards fell like sudden rain, flashing in the moonlight, striking the man's forearm. He swore, reflexively spreading his fingers, more surprise than release, just enough for the hostage to slam his shoulder into the guard's hips. The switch tumbled into the dirt and skittered. Now, Sophia said. Robert's team collapsed the space between moments. The hostage vanished under two bodies in plate carriers. The wire lifted like a snake and snapped free. A device the size of a thumb sailed into a tarp, where gloved hands smothered it under 3 inches of sand-filled canvas. Safe, Rodriguez reported, breathless. We're green. The man with the phone ran. Sophia tracked him to the outer wall, past a stack of tires and a panting dog. The wind leaned left. She leaned with it. Crack. The phone burst into black pieces. The man flinched, dropped into a squat, and met Robert in a doorway bigger than fear. The rest was brief and final. Package secure, Robert said. Exfil to Allie. Hayes, can you keep them blind for 30? Just 30, she said. No more. She painted the night with noise. 1 round into the generator housing. 1 into a metal drum. 1 snapping a wire, so alarms stuttered and died. She didn't aim at men. She aimed at chaos. Confused the pattern. And no one looks for the shape. Minutes stretched. Boots pounded. A child cried in a back room, then fell silent, soothed by a woman's voice Sophia would never hear again. Crossing black, Robert said. 3, 2, 1, clear. Sophia pushed herself up, the frost-stiff grass cracking under her knee. She breathed for the first time in what felt like hours. The world rushed back, the cold, the ache, the bite of the pack straps. Hayes, Rodriguez said, soft and stubborn with pride. You didn't take the shot. I took the right one, she said, and tapped the watch. 1, 2, 3. The mountains listened. 2 weeks later, when the debrief burned down to embers, the citation lay on a table nobody touched. Emma's footage sat in a secure archive under 3 locks and a promise. The rescued man wrote a letter none of them could read in his language, but the tears on the paper translated fine. Robert started keeping a different photograph on his desk. His brother Danny, sun in his eyes, kids on his shoulders. Alive because a Marine once refused to let numbers decide. Alive now because a daughter had learned when not to fire. Rodriguez found Sophia at the range before dawn. Mist hung in sheets. The world was made of hush and steel. You could have threaded the thumb, he said, coming up beside her. Yes, she said. Why didn't you? She watched the berm. Because thumbs twitch. Glass falls. He chuckled. That's going in the curriculum. It already did, she said. Between deployments, she wrote doctrine the way you write letters to people you love. Clear, honest, no showy words. She taught the old rituals and the new sensors, the mirage and the math. She made the team practice silent moments, 10 seconds of doing nothing on purpose, to feel the wind's mind. Emma helped shape the lessons into modules. Short, tight, real. No hero music, just truth and tape. Robert canceled a loud tradition and replaced it with a quiet one. At the 500-meter line, a small plaque appeared, bolted low where only shooters would see. Excellence has no category. Forever watching. No ceremony. Just presence. The story of the morning Sophia arrived, of the record in the wind and a general at the gravel, moved like tidewater through the community. Some didn't believe. Some didn't care. Enough did. Culture turns like a ship, slow at first, then all at once. Young operators started asking better questions. A few old ones stopped pretending they already knew the answers. And if a woman showed up at a range anywhere on the coast, people looked at her rifle first. On another continent, months later, a different wind tasted of dust and diesel. Different men shouted in a different language. Different maps curled at the edges of a plywood table. Sophia lay on a rooftop, cheek to stock, world narrowed to a reticle and a breath. She had 3 shots she could make, and 1 she would not. She took 2. She held the 3rd. She came home with all her team, plus 1 more heartbeat than they brought. At the award ceremony, she stood at attention just long enough to be polite. The medal felt heavy and unnecessary. She thanked the armor. She thanked the interpreter who had learned their names. She thanked the wind for telling the truth. Robert found her afterward on the quiet side of the building, where the lawn met a strip of salt-faded concrete. He stood with his hands in his pockets, shoulders loose. He had become the kind of leader who measured himself by the silence around his men. "I owe you," he said. "No, you don't," she answered. "We keep paying the same bill." He nodded. "Keep the plaque clean for me." "I will." They didn't say goodbye. They didn't need to. Some stories don't end. They just turn. There were still mornings when the mist rolled in from the Atlantic, and the range was hers alone. She set her rifle down. She listened to the gulls and the low thud of waves. She counted to 3 and touched the watch. Forever watching. Sometimes the wind said shoot. Sometimes it said wait. And when she couldn't hear either, she did the bravest thing she knew. She asked again. If you were there, on that ridge in that courtyard, or on this quiet line, what would you trust when the moment came? Your aim, your fear, or the silence that tells you who you are? What do you think is the harder courage, taking the shot you know you can make, or holding your fire when everything in you wants to pull the trigger?